Folks on Capitol Hill with one prominent Democratic moderate. Peter.
Thanks very much. I am joined by Michael Bennet of Colorado. The Democrats have been leading the efforts to get a bipartisan deal on long-term deficit reduction. Thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We're talking long-term deficit reduction, but in the short term, it looks a lot more like we're looking at a shutdown, given the comments from Leader Reid and also even Speaker Boehner in the last few minutes.
I think it's just unconscionable that we find ourselves where we are. I've spent my entire life outside of politics until very, very recently in business and in local government. And nowhere else in America would we say that it's acceptable for us to close the enterprise for a week or two. There's not one superintendent in Colorado, there's not one city council that says, sorry, we're not going to pick up the trash, we're not going to pick up the snow. People want us to work it out, and we ought to work it out. The bid and the ask here is minuscule.
You did work in financial markets. What are investors' markets to make of all this? This is a skirmish in a much bigger battle, isn't it?
A skirmish in a much bigger battle, and the much bigger battle is to get our fiscal house in order. And I think there are 4 tests for that, which, by the way, this current conversation is violating all over the place. But from Colorado's perspective, they want it to be a comprehensive plan. They want to know that we're all in it together, and they want it to be bipartisan. And I would say also that it needs to satisfy the capital markets, who need to be able to feel like the paper they have is worth what they paid for it. And we've got a monumental challenge in front of us to get that done, and we find ourselves in this skirmish, as you describe it, that could result, among other things, in putting 800,000 federal employees on the beach, which, at a time when we actually need people working.
You led a bipartisan letter-writing effort to President Obama, you and Senator Johanns of Nebraska, urging the president to get actively involved in this talk of a deficit reduction deal. That suggests you don't think the president's been involved enough.
Actually, what we said was that after this foolish conversation that we're in right now is finished, that what we need is a comprehensive conversation that we wanted the president to support. So I feel like he's happy with this right now, but once this is done, we need to have a comprehensive conversation. The point of the letter, by the way, was to say, look, we know discretionary spending needs to be on the table, entitlement reform, and tax reform. And we got 64 people to sign that, a majority of Democrats, a majority of Republicans, and a supermajority of the United States Senate to say, let's have this serious conversation. So my view is, let's get this done, let's keep the government open, and let's see if we've got the guts to have the serious conversation that the American people are expecting us to have.
64 senators is a number that caught a lot of attention here in Washington. At the same time, you do have this battle, you have this bickering right now, you do have a bipartisan effort, the Gang of Six talks to try and put the Deficit Commission plan into action here. You're going to be meeting with Alan Simpson in Colorado tomorrow to talk about the Deficit Commission plan. Given what we're seeing right now, do you have any realistic hope that plan can be put into legislative language?
If we don't do it, I shudder to think what the response to the capital markets is going to be. Right now, we're financing our debt at really low interest rates, short-term financing. And if those rates start to rise, our deficit situation, our debt situation is going to become even worse than it is today. And I believe that we will find ourselves in an economic morass that's even worse than the recession we just came out of. So hope springs eternal. And I can tell you, I'll do whatever I can do to try to get to a bipartisan solution that is comprehensive, and that I can go back to Colorado and say, we did our jobs. That's what this is about. We're paid to do a job, and I can't think of a more straightforward job than making sure we pay as we go and that we keep our government open.
Let me ask you had Paul Ryan on the House side this week offering Republican alternative for the budget for the next 10 years. His argument is, listen, you all had control of both the House and the Senate, the White House as well. You all didn't lead on this. This is a realistic alternative, a path to prosperity, he calls it. What do you make of the Ryan proposal and the argument Democrats have not done enough here?
Well, I certainly think Washington's not done enough, whether it's Democrats or Republicans. If we had, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in today. So I think our job now is not to point fingers. Our job now is to come together around a comprehensive plan. I support, by and large, the recommendations that were made by the Deficit and Debt Commission. Tomorrow in Colorado, I regret that I may not be there because of this nonsense here, but tomorrow in Colorado, we're having a town forum so that Alan Simpson and others can talk about what the facts really are. If we get a shared understanding of the facts, I think we can succeed.
All right, Senator Bennet, appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me,
Very likely,
Peter.
Senator Bennet will be